'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, except for the mouse. That's right, folks, it's time for another moving episode of Whining About Pest Control. I am Shelby Hartzer of 360 Pest Consulting, and as you may have guessed, we're going to whine about deer mice today. And nothing says winter curled up by the fire like a nice deep dark red, so cheers to deer mice. Wonderful. All right. Deer mice are a native species to the US, and this is unlike the other species, Norway rat, roof rat, house mouse. It can be found pretty much throughout the US except for that little bottom corner of the southeast. To differentiate the deer mouse from the house mouse, look at the tail. Deer mice, they're going to have this fuzzy tail. It's going to be bicolored, darker on top, lighter on bottom. For the house mouse, it's going to be kind of scaly looking, and it's going to be one single color on top and bottom. Deer mice are also a little bit smaller than the house mice, but that can be hard to tell sometimes. Deer mouse are found in different habitats. They're typically found outside in rarely used structures. You do not find these in urban areas. They prefer feeding on insects, seeds, fruits, nuts, and that more natural food sources you're going to find outside rather than feeding off the leftovers that people leave for them. However, this does not mean that they will never be found inside structures. If that were the case, what would we whine about? When they do get in, it's through those same small openings that our pest rodent species use. If they can fit their little skull in there, they're getting in. Often they're finding that opening that leads to a nice, safe, warm spot for them to start a nest. The other thing they'll do once they're inside and they have their nests, they're going to start to cache little food supplies nearby. Homeowners may actually find these little stashes of food before finding other evidence of deer mice, particularly since deer mice are nocturnal. Their nests are going to be made with grasses, stems, leaves, that other small fibrous material, and they're going to line it with nice soft feathers or fur. It's all about control, so let's whine on that for a bit. These are going to be found in lesser used sites. Again, not urban. They're going to be found in old sheds, maybe some crawl spaces, campers, cabins, other spots like that, especially in the woods. Chances are the customer is going to point you in exactly the right direction, but you still need to look in other areas that they may be in. You can also look for damage. Look for those old mattresses, old clothes, upholstered furniture. They could be using this as nesting material, or they could actually be nesting inside of that. Of course, we want the customer to seal up those holes that are allowing them in. That's a given. The typical rodent control products, they can still be used here. We're just going to make a few adaptations. Get those trapping devices close to their nests, close to those food caches, and this is going to increase your chance of removing some of them. Bait the traps with seeds, nuts, other small bits of what's going to be a little bit more natural outside. Again, don't use some of that human food if you can avoid it. Rodenticide baits are not going to be very effective here since, again, they're going after that sort of different food source. The bait just isn't as attractive to them. However, snap traps inside those bait stations can be great because that bait station looks like a nice, dark, sheltered little area to build their nest in. Again, getting the stations close to where they are, this can help. Again, can help. Look for those little used sites where people don't go too often. One thing that is really important to remember when it comes to deer mice and it comes to those inside the structures, there is a chance of hantavirus. This virus is actually in the urine, so when they've been inside peeing all over the space for a while and somebody goes in, they can stir up that dust particles of old pee and you can inhale those. This is not good. If you're going to be in these areas, you should be wearing a mask. If the customer needs to clean these areas or if you're going to offer that service, be very careful, wear the correct PPE. You can find those guidelines and the recommendations on the CDC website that we'll put down below. Hantavirus really is no joke. There is a 35% chance of death with it. Also, deer mice, these are the little guys that carry the ticks that transmit Lyme disease. But we're going to get into that on a different episode. Bottom line, just like any rodent infestation, getting the traps to the right locations is going to increase your chance of catching more and catching them faster. It's a good idea also to do long-term monitoring with deer mice because these like to reuse some of those nesting sites. That way, your customer isn't going to whine to you about further issues. But As always, you can whine to me anytime, especially about your deer mice or other pest issues. Helpful links are down below as usual. Rate, review, and subscribe because you don't want to miss out on any of this awesome whining. And until next time, cheers to deer mice.